According to my watch, it is 3 o'clock. Time to call to order the Board of Directors regular meeting study session for Thursday, February 16th, 2023. Could I have a roll call, please?
Director Meyerhoffen.
Here.
Director Duff.
Present.
Director Griffith.
Present.
Vice President Sewell.
Here.
And President Martin.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Okay. Counselor, would you go over the rules of procedure?
Yes, according to the rules of procedure adopted by the board, and I'm just touching on some of the key provisions for purposes of the meeting today, not going through the entire list, but all notice meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president of the board presides at all meetings and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting. The board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you. Item 5, public input. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board?
President Martin, we do not.
Okay. Moving on to item 6, employee Human Resources Report and Employee Recognition. We will cover that on Tuesday, unless there's somebody here that would like to speak on.
No, we'll do this on Tuesday. Yes.
All right.
We have 7 individuals that.
Yeah, I see that.
Introduce you to.
Right. Okay. All right. Item 7 has been pulled due to additional information coming forward. Moving on to item 8, resolution 2023-03, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Mission Springs Water District recommending approval of a notice of exemption determination under the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines for well 22. Arden?
We're going to let Eric give you the details. Of course, this is basically a fairly complete rehabilitation while he's getting ready to make his presentation here. It's a categorical exemption, and this is a very reliable and good well. That's why we want to rehabilitate it. Eric, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board, and General Manager Wallen. Item 8 in your agenda packet pertains to the staff recommending the board approve the notice of exemption determination for well 22 site improvement projects. Well 22 is an existing well located on the south side of Pearson Boulevard. Staff has determined that well 22 needs to be rehabilitated and the electrical panel needs to be upgraded. Other items of work include the installation of a small well support building and minor site work. Bear in mind that this site has already been previously disturbed, so that's one of the reasons why there's no major environmental issues here. The district has retained Tom Dodson and Associates, a qualified and very experienced consultant that specializes in California environmental compliance and helps us navigate through the necessary Environmental Quality Act requirements as they pertain to district improvements. Staff has provided the specifics to Tom Dodson and Associates, and it was determined that the project qualifies for a notice of exemption determination under the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, and that the project consists of the operation and maintenance of existing facilities and mechanical equipment that involves little to no expansion of the site, and there is no expansion to the site. All work will be within the well 22 site and will not encroach upon the roadway or the right-of-way. Traffic will not be affected, nor will there be any traffic control or detours needed to route traffic around on Pearson. After the board has approved the recommendation that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA, the district will file the notice of exemption with the Riverside County Clerk and will be posted for a 35-day period for public review. Adoption of this resolution will not have any fiscal impact. After the 35-day review period, staff will solicit construction bids and will present those bids to the board at a future meeting to ultimately award the bid to the lowest bidder. Are there any questions?
Director Meyerhoffen?
Yes, I see that well 22 is coming up later. Some kind of contamination or something? On the next agenda, is that the same well?
It's the same well, but it's just various work, and we'll explain it as we present it. Yes. Eric, do you want
Okay,
to
well,
answer that?
No, don't bother to answer. It's all right.
I'm not sure about the animation.
Yeah.
There wasn't any animated or PowerPoint presentation planned for this item.
Yeah, no, but basically this is just speaking to the process of the categorical exemption.
Oh.
And it's not just determined that it's the appropriate way to address this one from the CEQA point of view.
CEQA creates an exemption if it's an existing facility and you're doing rehabilitation, repair. This is an existing well site. So it's just
Really?
at this point, all you're talking about is approving the exemption, which is a requirement that we do in order not to go through a full environmental review.
And I guess, yeah, I might not have understood the question. This is to do with the project itself and what its impact is, not.
That's what I was just gonna
Well,
clarify. Yeah, it's for the actual project itself, not any
Not the
other
well.
environmental issue, the well itself. All right, thank you.
Correct.
Is that it? Yeah, Ivan? Howard? Amber?
No.
Okay. Moving on to item 9, approve change order number 2 with L.O. Lynch Quality Wells and Pumps Incorporated for on-call well and booster maintenance and repair services. Arden?
Thank you, President Martin. Yes, we want to provide you with some additional information here. Danny will take it from my introduction here, but I wanted to first say before we get into the nuts and bolts, which Danny loves to do, of this change order, I want to provide you with information that will help to understand why this may look unusually high compared to others you have seen. Most of the time, and like in this case, the change is because of multiple projects, not just because of a change order with one project. And then this will complete various necessary tasks using what we refer to as standby or on-call contractors. Most all districts like ours, if not all districts, vet through a competitive process several contractors to be available to do what we call time-sensitive work, normally and mostly because of unexpected equipment failures. And this is throughout the entire system, not just with one particular well. It can be. When repair work is necessary, the agency contacts each appropriate contractor to get their availability and cost to do the work, and subsequently then awards the work to one of the vetted contractors. A not to exceed amount is set for each contractor, requiring that they must go back to the board for approval if the time-sensitive projects assigned to them go over that amount, and that's a cumulative amount. Last February, around that time, you will recall that we brought to you 3 contractors, L.O. Lynch, Legend Pump and Well Service, and Southwest Pump, to do on-call or as-needed well and booster service. Each had a not to exceed limit of $150,000. We've been back to you to change that previously on another project. but I want to make it very clear, this is not for one well or one project. This is for multiple projects because of system repairs that we need to make, and they are time sensitive in order for us to make sure our distribution system can handle the high demands we're going to see here quickly. The process was followed, resulting in the LO Lynch being selected to do the work. And then Danny will explain this in a minute. This is not one project, but multiple projects, multiple wells and boosters that we need to have repaired immediately, and we need to get them back in before we encounter, like I said, the high demands. One additional note is that we did realize that we need to evaluate our production system further. Consequently, we entered into an agreement with Kyle Groundwater sometime a while back, about a year, maybe close to a year ago, to perform a study and develop a rehabilitation program. Unfortunately, this repair work needs to be done before that study could be completed. And with that, I'm going to let Danny give you the details of this change order so we can move forward with this repair. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager Wallen. Good afternoon, President Martin, members of the board. Item 9 in your agenda packet pertains to change order 2, as General Manager Wallen mentioned. It's with LO Lynch Quality Wells and Pump in the amount of $400,000 for the on-call well and booster maintenance and repair services contract. The work included in the change order 2, and Director Meyerhoff, and I may be able to answer your question. I think I knew what you're asking, but earlier, but it includes well 22. It's going to include an aggressive well rehabilitation and well development, both chemical and mechanical methods. And once that work is done, it's also going to include a new pump assembly, column pipe, the line shaft, and the motor assembly, everything that's going to allow it to be a functional well. And I can come back to that and answer that question. And it also includes well 33. Excuse me, well 33 has recently been rehabilitated, and it's been redeveloped using the same or similar mechanical and chemical methods that we are going to be doing at well 22. And the remaining items to complete the well will bring it back in service is a new submersible pump and motor assembly and column assemblies. And we're hoping that these efforts will bring this well back to many useful years of life. The last item on the change order number 2 includes Terrace Booster Site. It has 2 booster stations at Terrace Boosters. Boosters 1 through 4 is a station, and boosters 5 and 6 is a separate station. The particular work on this change order is for boosters 1, 2, 5, and 6. The 4 boosters at Terrace still need to be repaired because of significant leakage, seal leakage. And the work includes pulling the motor and the pump for full inspection and repairing, as necessary, the mechanical components of these pumps and motors. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, moving to my left, Director Griffith, do you have any comments?
I have a couple questions, and I just for clarification, and I kind of have a comment, but back in November, and we voted on this, I believe, in December, we increased this previous change order from 150 to an amount not to exceed 400,000, and that one included well 33. And what was also included in that was, it says also this well requires a replacement of the previous oil lube submersible pump and motor due to failure and damage. So then when I look at this one, we see well 33, a new submersible pump and motor and column assembly. So I'm just kind of curious as to why we had that on the previous one and we also have it here again. Is that a duplicate, or can you explain to me why we're claiming that twice?
Good question. Director Griffith, I will say that should have had some different language on change order 1. What happened in change order 1 was the aggressive chemical rehab and the well development. And the way that works is we typically go down with a camera, determine what is required or the recommended repair or rehabilitation. And then after that, we do well development. And during that well development, they determine what type of pump, the size, the pump set, anywhere near its current location, and the equipment that needs to be replaced. What should have been said in change order 1 is we will be planning to also replace the downhole equipment, which is the pump and motor. And the reason I say that is there is not a oil lubed submersible pump. What existed there was a vertical turbine pump. For those that have been to our sites, you'll see a motor above ground, and then it connects to a shaft below ground. And that area is subject to high wind and a lot of sand damage. The motor at that facility, the existing motor at that facility, was what we call a sealed motor. They're not very common, but it was a sealed motor for that reason, to prevent any further damage from the sand that blows in that area. And it reached a point of repair that was over 70% of the cost of a new motor. So they recommended to go with a new motor. Unfortunately, a sealed motor has a high lead item, especially with the issues that we have with the economy and supply chain issues. And they also felt that this was a good location to install a submersible, which would eliminate the issue or the need for a sealed motor. Plus, it had a cost savings of over $45,000. So we weren't certain at the time that we did change order 1 what we needed, but change order 2 is contemplating the actual replacement of the pump and motor equipment. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. The other thing is, what was mentioned in the previous item was possibly a building for well 22, but I didn't see that in this item. Is that going to be something separate, or is that also included in this?
Can you repeat that question, please? I'm not sure I followed exactly.
Yeah, when Eric was talking about the CEQA exemption, there was a mention about there possibly being a building, as we have with some of our other wells, but I didn't see that on this change order here. Is that part of it? Is that going to be something separate?
That is going to be something separate. And I'm sorry, I confused it with, we were still talking about well 33. So this is likely going to touch on what I believe Director Meyerhoffen was asking. Well 22 is, well, let me back up. I apologize. We have a few wells that have had the grandfathering of certain improvements until such time that we had to do a rehabilitation. Well 22 is one of those wells. And currently the well pedestal, or the concrete pedestal that wells sit on, they have to be a certain height for a state division of drinking water standards. And because of the downhole rehab, we are no longer grandfathered. In order to change that to be in compliance, it will raise the motor, the piping assembly that you see above ground. Domino effect. There was a domino effect that created a requirement to relocate the motor control center, which is no longer safe per OSHA standards, in order to have a safe distance around the doorway once we raised the pedestal. And so it resulted in the need to do a full rehab, which includes the building that Eric spoke about earlier, which is a chlorine building. Before we wanted to do that work as a whole, we wanted to ensure that the downhole, the quality or the integrity of the downhole well, the casing, was good enough to be able to move forward with the project. We didn't want to invest the time and calories, if you will, to go through a full project knowing and possibly having to back it out because the well itself may not sustain a rehab. So what's being contemplated in change order 2 is that rehab. And if the rehab is successful, then we'll purchase the motor and equipment while we finish up the plan set so that we can bid this project out, which was the secret process that was presented earlier. And we'll go ahead and do a full above ground rehab. So so change order 2 talks about below ground, and the work contemplated in the CEQA or for the CEQA is above ground.
Okay, and then finally, I kind of have a comment. So in other construction things that I've worked with, typically with a change order, there is kind of a cost estimate and then contingency amount. And I think for the purpose of clarity for me and probably a lot of people, when we just do these general amounts, and I know some of that is because we don't really know the full extent of the work, but I think it would be really helpful if we had some kind of breakdown of what these costs are going to be from the standpoint of it's easy to say we're going to do this and we don't want it to exceed this amount, but I like to know exactly, what does this cost in the past, or what is the estimate for this cost, barring those contingencies. I think it's really helpful for people to understand a little better what it is we're trying to do here. So that's just my comment. And
It's
that's
a
all.
great comment. I could provide that information on Monday if that'd be helpful. And just to be clear that I'm on.
Why don't we do that? Yes, Danny.
Yeah, I can
Thought it
certainly
was going
do
to be
that.
included. Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be really helpful if that kind of stuff was included when if this stuff is published, because that way the public gets to see it and we get to see it. And it might even cut down on some of the questions where we're like, well, this seems like an inordinate amount of money. But then when you see the costs adding up, I think it makes it easier to kind of digest. So if you could get that to all of us, I would really appreciate it, Danny.
Certainly I will. My apologies for not including it today.
No worries. Thanks.
Anything further?
No.
Director Duff.
Thank you for asking the questions you did, because it led to some of the questions that this brought for myself. And in addition to answering Director Griffith's questions, I'm hoping that in the future, when we have change orders on these type of contracts, you can provide us with the previous change order as well. There are a couple new people on the board, and we don't always know where to look or when this came, where this came from. And so to be able to look at what we last did in comparison to what we're doing now would be very helpful. Also, in addition, the only other question I really have is, of the initial $400,000 award, what of that has been spent? And can you kind of give us a better idea on what, so that we know what remaining amount is left of the potential $800,000 contract?
Certainly. What Director Griffith asked for, and I'll be happy to provide on Monday, is the current cost to date and the items that we contemplated in change order 1 and the items that we're adding in change order 2. We can show you what we spent to date and what these added items have, or the reasons why these added items are we're asking for an additional $400,000. So I'll be happy to do that on Monday. I'm sorry, Tuesday. Thank you. And I'm prepared to talk about. I'm just in case it was asked. I do have in front of me what was included in change order 1, and I don't have the values that was asked by Director Griffith, but I can provide those on Monday or Tuesday as well. But if you'd like, I can go over what was included in change order 1.
Please.
Certainly. So change order 1 included the full chemical rehabilitation and well development of well 33. As Director Griffith asked earlier, he was wanting to understand the difference. There was some language that stated an oil lube submersible pump and downhole equipment. That wasn't part of the cost in change order 1. That's being added to change order 2. But in change order 1, and just to give you some background, we take a video, we understand what's needed, we reach out to our consultants, our experts, to say, give us a recommendation based on the video, and we do that aggressive rehab and well development. And after that, there's a recommendation on what equipment to replace and or change, upgrade. That's what's on change order 2. So change order 1 included the rehab of well 33. It also included well 32. There was a repair of seals for the well itself and the booster stations 1 and number 3 at that station. They have mechanical seal issues that are leaking and need to actually be repaired. Some of those items can be done by our staff, and then other items require the motor and things to be pulled, which requires well rigs and things like that, and pump rigs. And the third item on Change order one was too much booster repair. It was booster number one, again, repair the seals, which was causing significant leak from the pumps. And those tend to cause unusual wear on the shafting. So we try to get ahead of that and do that work. So and that's all that was included.
Anything else? Commissioner Deb?
The only other remaining question I have, and I will look forward to the information you're going to provide Tuesday, is do we think or believe that this $400 addition is going to complete these repairs, or is it going to potentially lead to another for purchasing the equipment that you're referring to?
If I understand you, do we feel that this will be the only change order? Is that what you're asking?
Well, do we feel that the $400,000 quote is going to cover correcting these issues, or is it only going to bring us to the actual, now we need to purchase this, and this, it's going to be this much more?
Yeah, Danny, I think, and those are great questions,
That's a
and,
great
and we will get that. But I think what she wants to know is it addresses 3 different projects. In some of those in some cases, it's not going to be the final. It's just the part of the step process we go through. In some cases, like when we do the work on possibly the downhole work and we equip a well, then we can pretty much assume that's the completion of the project. She wants to know each project, Danny.
No, I understand now, and I do we anticipate more costs than the $400,000, and hopefully the $400,000 that we're asking for the work contemplated in change order 2 is going to cover it. The easiest way to answer that is yes. Based on well 33, for example, we have the cost for the replacement equipment. There is a contingency built into that so that we don't come back to the board for incidental cost. Well 22 has the same thing. Well 22, however, they're recommending an aggressive rehab, a chemical rehab, in order to satisfy the issues that we're dealing with water quality. It's uncertain what's going to happen with that well after that rehab, meaning it may have some holes in some areas that need to be repaired, and we may have to come back for some additional funds. At this point in time, we don't believe so, based on what we have seen with multiple videos. Terrace boosters 1, 2, 5, and 6, which is being contemplated on change order 2, is another one that's similar to that. I put in parens as necessary. What we expect to do is pull the pump and replace a good part of the mechanical equipment. And unless there's something out of the ordinary, we're hoping that the contingency that's built into their cost is going to cover that.
In other words, we're assuming it's the seals, but when we get into it, it might be the rotors or something, Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything further? Okay. Director Meyerhoffen.
Danny, it's good to see you in the hot seat. That's better without it. Good to see you, Danny.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Change order number 2, I believe it is, for the submersible well pump. How is that I'm on the right change order?
You're correct. Yes.
How much is the pump itself? $40,000, you could say?
I don't have that in front of me. I want to say that the downhole equipment is roughly in the $80,000 to $90,000 range. So a submersible includes a motor and a pump as an integral unit that is submersed in the casing.
And how long is the guarantee on that pump?
Well, the work itself has a 1-year guarantee. The motors generally have a 3 to 5 year warranty based on manufacturers, any issues with the manufacturer.
And you're going to have to, I'm sorry for interrupting you, go ahead.
But go ahead with your next question, please.
So you have to bring in special equipment to go down 1,000 feet to install that pump? It's at the bottom of the casing, right? And the well?
This well has a pump set roughly 350 to 400 feet. I don't have that number, and I can bring that to you on Tuesday. But the well itself may be 1,000 feet, but where they set the pump is generally never at the bottom of it.
Less.
All right.
So regardless if it's a submersible pump or a vertical turbine pump, which is the majority of our wells, motors, and pump systems, it's the same pump equipment. That's why we rely on these pumping companies to be able to bring their rigs out to do that work. It would be the same exact equipment, regardless of the vertical turbine or submersible.
It works better. It works okay for this particular pump because of the, production that we expect to get out of it.
Yes,
Larger productions, you need a vertical turbine.
yes, and then I understand the problem with the sand blowing, and you can't keep dust out of anything around here. That does build up over a period of time. So the cost factor for the submersible pump is compared to the one we're using now is better than what we're doing now, or is it more?
No, I think, didn't you say, Danny, it was about $40,000 savings to do it?
Yes.
40 came in, okay.
Yeah, so to replace the equipment in kind with the same type of sealed vertical turbine motor, column pipe and shafting and pump versus the submersible motor and pump and column assembly is roughly $40,000 less. I believe it's between $80,000 for the submersible unit, 120 roughly, and I'll have those exact numbers for you on Monday.
Okay.
Roughly $120,000 for the sealed vertical turbine unit. However, the lead time to get that motor is much longer. So we're able to save money and essentially, for the purposes of reducing any type of environmental damage from the wind and sand, eliminate that as well.
Okay, thank you.
I will add though, there's
Yes.
been comments and discussions internally. Well, why don't you build a wall? Why don't you do something to block it? Those have been discussed, and in that area, which is and just to let you know where well 33 is, it's the well that's in between the current regional plant that's being constructed and our solar site. And that well in that area, the sand blows so much, even with a chain link fence, that you can almost walk over the top of the chain link. A 6-foot fence with barbed wire if you don't maintain it. So what we wanted to eliminate is further O&M costs to go out there and move, equipment loads of sand that build up against the wall. So that's why we also are going with a submersible pump and motor setup.
All right. Thank you, Danny.
Yeah.
President Martin?
Yes.
You put me on the engineering what do you call that? Engineering
Affiliates list?
yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I would like to, and I don't expect to get paid for it, but when these items come up, to have an opportunity, and if another board of directors would like to come along, it's fine, to maybe go out with the staff members so we can see firsthand what they're really talking about. And at least we can come back and say, oh yeah, we understand.
Certainly when these items appear on the agenda, you shoot an email to Arden and he can arrange that for you.
Okay, thank
We'll
you.
be glad to take you out to any site you want to see. Yeah.
All right, well, when they come up, then have your staff get a hold of me, please. The second thing is Director Griffith, I've been waiting for you to say something about, you got an education there in business and the master's in international business?
No, I have a bachelor's in global business management.
But you know something about contracts.
Yes.
And I believe Director Duff has some background with some contracts. And so do I. Make it easier, I know that Arden there, he gave a little spiel there on what was going on. But basically what we're doing here is we're approving a contract. And I would like to see the contracts that we're approving in the agenda packet. We have 3 board of directors. I'm not sure about Ivan and Russ there, but the 3 board of directors for sure understand contract, and we're approving contract. I think I would appreciate to see the actual contract prior to the meeting.
Yeah.
The one you're going to sign, the one that the president's going to sign. those contracts, not, it's just the information because
Yeah, the contracts were on the agenda. I did say that at the beginning.
It's in the packet. It's a change order, which is a contract. It's an amendment basically to a contract. So that is in the packet in item number 9.
okay, so we have the amendment, but what about the actual contract?
I'm sure that it could be provided.
Yeah, I mean, those contracts came in front of the board when we vetted the on-call services.
I wasn't here, was I?
No,
Okay, thank you. That's all.
but they're available. If you want to see them.
Director Sewell.
No further questions, but I appreciate the questions that were asked and the very detailed explanation. So thank you, Nanny.
Yes, and it was an excellent discussion. I to see you've all done your homework and I really appreciate it. So item 10, award of contract with Denali Water Solutions LLC for hauling of subclass D biosolids grit and screening off-site. Arden?
Yes, Danny is going to explain to you what this is all about. We have had the same hauler for a number of years, and we knew it was a good deal. And we rode that horse until we couldn't ride it anymore. And so he told us this year that they
So
told us.
Danny, you're really earning your money today.
Yeah, so Danny, you get to explain. Well, he's going to explain how the process works, but I think it's a good example of how much these things cost. All right, Danny.
Thank you, General Manager Wallen. Good afternoon again. The item in front of you is item 10 in your agenda pack is recommending the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Denali Water Solutions for a contract not to exceed $500,000 per year for hauling of subclass B solids grit and screening off-site. I will get into the details of what we did. We did requested an RFP. We received 2 proposals. Staff put together a selection committee or review committee, and the 3 people on the committee scored Denali, the highest ranked respondent, over the Ecology Auto Parts. And based on that, we are recommending to award contract to Denali Water Solutions. That concludes the actual board or the staff report item. I can give some history as to what happened if that's helpful to the board.
Does anybody have any requests for the history of? I'm sorry?
History, no. Have a question.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, with that, I'll open it up for questions. Director Doug.
Just a couple. Can you tell me what the total annual cost for the ecology contract? I know that you guys scored Denali higher, but can you let us know the cost difference between the 2?
I can't right now, although I was a reviewer of this RFP process. RFP or request for proposals, when they submit them and they're based on qualifications, they're not based on cost. So the cost amount should be a separate item that doesn't get opened and not provided to the actual reviewers, so that influences anything. So this process was strictly based on qualifications, which at that time, when we all reviewed and scored Denali the highest or the higher score, the cost was opened up, and I just don't have the other item, and we typically don't open up the cost for any other respondents that did not get selected. I'll let legal answer any questions if that's an incorrect response, that we should provide that.
Yeah. I don't have anything.
Maybe I could make it easier. Was it more or less, or you have no knowledge of it?
I have no knowledge of it.
All right. Well, on Tuesday, I think, we'll get in touch with Brian
Thank you.
and Lee and see what that issue.
And then the only other two more questions, I guess. One, in reading the summary, you said that we had received notice in September that the company I believe Western Express, was no longer going to be able to serve us. In October, you guys put out the bids. Well, it's already past February and the board is just being brought the information. If we were to have further concerns or questions, we're kind of put in a pickle since there's no time to really discuss it. And I really think that we need at least to have, when contracts are expiring, the replacement for that should be presented to the board with enough time for the board to actually do their jobs and make sure that they are clear in understanding what path and what route we're taking as a group. That's just one comment. And then the other question is, who is MSWD's contracting officer? Do we have one person who's in charge of maintaining and reviewing all of our contracts? Does it go to different heads or?
Well, we usually go through, like, for example, engineering, and it depends on who's doing the work. If it's a financial contract, it'll go through finance, and then we'll vet it. We'll have Slovak Baron Empey, our counsel, do it, review it. They have experts in various types of contracts, especially for municipal.
Okay.
And they review all of our contracts. Yes.
So I guess then the last comment would be, I was looking at the contract and under J said that they were going to provide us, once we issue the contract, what their plan is as far as spill response. I would personally like to know what their policy is as a company, that it should be something that is available prior to signing. It shouldn't be something we have to wait for. We should know how they're going to respond if one of their trucks spills something in our community or outside of our community. So I would like to see that completed before we actually vote on it, if possible. And I would like to maybe have a further discussion in the near future about a contracting officer who is going to be making sure that all of our, for example, worker comp policies that are handling the subcontractors are kept up to date and on each contract.
Yeah, but like
It's a
I
big
said,
job.
yeah. Well, we usually we don't have an expert that is an expert on everything. You know, the person that does HR work doesn't really know that much about a lot of sludge hauling services and environmental services. So we try to pick what we need and then go out and get an expert. It's like, that's why we do work with the consultants, and the same thing applies for our legal services. We need experts in that particular field, and we have a variety of functions. So when the function requires that, we go to that person. But we do coordinate it, and we're getting larger, so we can focus on having an individual, and we're looking at engineering, for example. We have an individual that focuses on managing those contracts and that handles a lot of the contracts on the engineering side and the operations side. Then we have finance, and they handle a lot of the contracts on that side.
Okay, thank you.
And the contract does set forth in detail what the insurance requirements are. For example, in section D, it sets forth a requirement for professional liability coverage of $1 million per claim and $2 million annual aggregate. And then in section E, and I'm just touching on some of the provisions here, it has a requirement for general liability coverage of not less than $2 million per occurrence, $4 million general, $4 million property. Hold on one second. Coverage of not less than $2 million per occurrence, or the full per occurrence limits of the policies available, whichever is greater for bodily injury, personal injury, and property damage. 4 million general and products completed operations aggregate. And then it has on the next page, section 2, page 17, workers' compensation statutory limits and employer's liability of $1 million. And then there are some additional workers' comp language below that under the required provisions. So it's a pretty detailed contract with attachments to it, and we do review the contracts. I think your question though is not a review, but a management of the contracts question.
And we're looking at, we do have a person sort of, we're looking at to do that now, and she's very good at it. And so as time goes on, we're going into that function. Yes.
Anything further? Director Griffith?
No, I do have to agree though with Director Duff. Sorry, I do kind of agree with Director Duff in terms of that someone's no longer servicing effective February 1st, and we're halfway through the month, and so it would be nice if we had this prior so that you could just have no break in service there. I don't know what we're doing with now, but
yeah, I'll let Danny answer that, but I think we have, that is our relationship with the previous, hauler, and I think that might be flexible, but I'm not sure.
okay.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you. That was part of the history that wasn't provided earlier. I just didn't want to give too much information. So I understand wanting to review this, or having more time to review this. This Western Express haulers has been with the district since 2014, and in June of 2023, to June of 2023, essentially is what the contract is. But they did send us a letter. They had some changes, and the owner passed away. The kids were taking over the business. What they did with our sludge, they picked up our sludge and they did lime stabilization, which takes it from a subclass B to what we have to a class A, and where they could apply it for beneficial use onto their farm. So the new owners, if you will, determined that it was not financially viable to continue doing that. So they wanted to terminate the contract and get out of that business. When they got out of it, we asked them if they could keep hauling for us, at least to a landfill, which they did. And that was to buy us time. We're working through our request for proposals process. Unfortunately, what happened here just recently is the landfill that they have contract with said just a hard stop, no more sludge of biosolids, no more hauling of sludge or biosolids. So what we are looking at right now is we are storing that on our site just for this past month, and we are able to do that until such time that this contract can be in effect.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Director Meyerhoffen?
Yes, sir. Normally, when a government agency looks at a contract or a proposal for a bid, they take in consideration the company's background, their job performance, and along with that, the cost. And if it's a lower cost, that's when they start looking a little closer at what the actual cost is and what the Mission Springs Water District would estimate it to be. What I have here before me is, I don't mean to be rude, but it's really not a recommendation. It's a one choice, and I'm either going to vote yes or no. The second problem I have with this is that we've been asking for 3 months for a tour of the Horton facility, and now I see that's coming up. What is it, on the 27th, is it?
We do have that scheduled, yes.
Yes. So, but that's after the fact that we approve this. So if we were to had that meeting prior, or if we could delay this until our next meeting, I would prefer that so that we can have that knowledge of what's going on there. My next problem here is that not to exceed $500,000, but I'm not seeing anywhere in here of how much we're being charged per ton. Dry ton, wet ton, there's a difference there. I'm not seeing that actual cost. who's keeping track of the tonnage? Where's the scale at? We don't have a scale here.
Yeah, we do.
Do we have a scale here? That's
We do.
even better. Okay. See, that's why we need to get down there for that tour. So we have a scale, that's good. So we can keep track of that. Now, so what the cost is per ton, Danny, let me finish. I think go ahead and answer these for me. The cost per ton to actually haul it out, wet and dry. And then the length of the contract, 5-year term not to exceed 10 years. So at the end of the first 5 years, it doesn't have to come back before the board. The staff can go ahead and extend it another 10. My problem with that is two things. We're not sure who the board members are going to be 5 years from now. And they may have other ideas. So in consideration to our future board members, I don't think we should be extending it past that 5-year mark. Now, the 5-year mark, I don't think we should go to the 5-year mark for another reason. When do we expect the regional facility to be done? Maybe another year? And correct me if I'm wrong, Arden, and then it's going to be another year before we get all the bugs and everything worked out. About the 3rd year, we'll really be on the roll with that facility, right? That good estimation there?
No, I'd say by the end of this year, we will be accepting sewage,
Okay,
but it's not a matter of the capacity of the plant. It's a matter of how much sewage is generated.
right.
And we don't expect that to change. We have projections on that, and that's what we used here.
So, and then you get staff that's got to get used to the new equipment and their new everything that's going on there's new to them. But I'm not saying they don't have a knowledge of it. They just
We use
got to get used to the new stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So my thought on this is that I would like to see a 3-year contract written here. And the reason for that is things are changing with the technology so much, and the rules and regulations with the state and the federal government. And if we go with a 3-year contract, we're not limiting ourselves from getting a grant to change something later. We may decide, hey, we can go ahead and deal with this sludge and send it off in a different direction, and we might even get a contract for that. So for those reasons, I'd like to see us go with a 3-year contract. And once again, I would like to see the actual contract. I see what I'm reading here, and it's true that stuff is in there, but what is the actual contract you're going to sign with them? This is just a generalization of what is going to be in that actual contract. And it's a good generalization. It's there, but so maybe Danny can answer those questions.
Well,
about
I'll let Danny take a shot at it, and then I'll tell you why we first of all, one reason we like to do these the way we do is that it's a matter of the longer the contract, the better it is sometimes for us, because that locks them into a price. And if we go for a shorter contract, then in 3 years, they can increase the cost of that. We like to get a guaranteed price for the handling of the sludge. That way we can budget it and we can know what our cost will be.
Let me respond to that. If I was in business and I was doing a 5-year contract, I would have to cover that money 5 years from now. I'd have to cover it today if that's the way I was going to get the contract written. So today's price, I'd have to charge you for 5 years estimated price later and make a nice profit this year.
Well, we don't make
Flip side.
profit, so.
No, we don't. No, we're not in the business. I'm saying the company itself would have to do that with the explanation you gave me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Danny.
Thank you. There's a lot of topics and a lot of questions. I'm hoping to hit them, and please stop me if I'm going in the wrong direction. I would like to say that based on this is not the process that we took with this contract is not unusual. It's based on qualifications. It's based on services offered, and I do have some information that the ecology cost was less. However, there were some other issues with existing litigation that they had with some of their previous clients. So some of those items, the qualifications part and is what led us to scoring them higher without cost being involved. So this contract does say 94.50 a ton. I'm sorry, 100 and I have to find it on the actual page. I just had it and I just changed.
Page 34.
Thank you. And it does list out what the tonnage is. I will also say that sludge contracts like this are all typically.
Excuse me, Dan, there's an interruption on that note. Is that per wet ton or per dry ton?
It's on page 34.
It's per ton. A
It's
ton
per
is
ton.
a ton is a ton.
A
And-
ton is,
And what we haul away is solids that aren't 100% dry. So currently, and it's a wet ton, but what we have is about 18% solids, the rest of it being 82% liquid. So it is a wet ton. The discussion about 3 years and not understanding what to do or to get underway with the new plant, the equipment that's being spec'd out at the new plant is also similar to the equipment that we have currently in our Horton plant. So that was done for a reason because of the success that we've had with the current equipment. So I don't know if that's going to have any relevance as to making this contract 3 years to a 5-year contract. As far as changing technology, we're aware of that. The way that this contract is written is it also includes hauling to a landfill and future beneficial use. Right now, our subclass B is not heated, it's not dry to a level that can get to a B, or in this case, an A, which is the most sought after sludge, where you can beneficial use will allow you to apply it to ground application. We can, if we were when we are looking at those technologies, a dryer to be able to provide heat and it's a low temperature dryer. We're looking at that through another study to see if we can get that and also potential grants to pay for that. I mentioned 18% solids that currently come off of our belt press. A dryer or a low temperature dryer would create or produce class A solids, and it would produce 95% plus solids, meaning you have 5% or less liquids. To put that in some sort of layman's terms, for example, today we haul 5 trucks per week. If we were to go ahead and do something like a low temperature dryer, which is a technology, we could likely take that down to 1 truckload per week. And rather than taking it to a landfill where we have to pay tipping fees or scale fees at the tonnage, we would be able to even go back to our old hauler, and if we could produce a class A. There's other methods that we would not like to get into, like lime stabilization, which was what our other hauler was doing. It's a lot of PPE and a lot of extra steps that you have to take, but we are looking at what we can do with our solids to either dry them for weight or either turn them into a class A. In a perfect world, we would be out in the middle of nowhere where we can take all of our sludge that comes off of our press and we can spread it out and it could dry, it can come up to a certain heat, and we can manage that sludge differently. But given
which is what we used to do until we got complaints about odor.
Correct. So I'm going to stop there because I believe I have check marks next to the questions I believe I answered, but I would like to just double check them.
I don't have more questions. Thank you, Danny.
Cool.
And if I can just add to what Danny said. So when you have a cost-based contract where you're going out for sealed bid, then it's cost-driven, and you go to the lowest responsible bidder, period. And regardless of which company that is, it goes to the lowest responsible bidder. They get the award. But with a contract like this, I'm aware of situations where a party has contracted for hauling of these type of materials or similar types of materials, and the the materials ended up in a place they shouldn't be, or of a quality they shouldn't be. And then there was litigation claiming that there was contamination of groundwater. So when you're dealing with materials like this, you want to make sure that you're dealing with a company that doesn't have litigation, environmental litigation pending against them. Multiple lawsuits have been filed against them, environmental enforcement actions that have been pursued against them, that they are reputable, and that they will, when they leave this site and they haul that material off, that we're confident that it's going to end up where it needs to go to protect the environment and protect groundwater. So, and for that reason, it's not cost-based. It's based on the qualification. So I think what the reviewing panel did was they reviewed the qualifications and selected based on the qualifications. If it's just price driven, then you got to go with the lowest bidder.
And so, if I may, I noticed some of the issues that you just spoke of are in this contract here. So what you're basically saying is that if the company here doesn't perform, it could come back on Mission Springs Water District.
Well, I guarantee you that's the way it's going to be. They're not state
There's
Water Resources Control Board.
right.
Yeah.
So there's no real guarantee.
Using the
with
Water
this
Quality
contract, and it
Control
might
Board.
not come back on us then.
The
There is if something does go wrong.
Yeah, the contract contains indemnity provisions where they have an obligation to defend and indemnify the district. But the first line of defense is picking a contractor that's reputable, that's capable, competent, that you know is going to take this material and put it where it's responsible, where it responsibly needs to go. That's the first step, as opposed to just relying on a defense and indemnity agreement and the insurance. So the contract does have that as a second tier of protection for the district. First, you pick the most reputable company. Second, you have defense and indemnity provisions. And third, you have insurance coverage.
It's, I think maybe the way to look at it is it's kind of a partnership as much as anything, because the regulatory agencies are going to come after Mission Springs Water District.
So I noticed this particular company here, what's the name of it? Denali is throughout the Coachella Valley, and they have done a lot of work, and they seem really to be reputable then. And
We want to do our work up
one of the
front.
reasons we went with them.
They listed some of the other agencies that they
Yes,
were in
it's
their
that,
proposal.
yeah. Okay, I could understand why we went with them then. Thank you.
Okay. Did you have any comments?
Yeah, just more comments. I would agree with Director Duff that the timing on this is a little tough for us as a board. And I would just get to Director Meyerhoff's comments on possibly pushing this a month. 5 trucks worth of sludge a week for another month. I'm just wondering if that you see would be an issue for odor, and just if it's necessary for you to see the site before you were to vote, is that something that maybe Director Meyerhoff could see the site on Tuesday morning? Not necessarily a whole tour, but whatever you needed to see prior. I'm confident with staff's decision, and I'd rather not have
Well,
the sludge building up at the
I
facility.
think the staff has answered all my questions, so we can wait for the tour later. Move forward.
Okay. All right. Yes, go ahead.
I see the list of the other companies, local and in Southern California, and several of them 2001 length of contract. I'm assuming Danny or someone here has contacted 1 or 2 of our friends that use them just to verify that everything's kosher in their relationship with Denali.
That's part of the process, yeah.
Correct. I wasn't the lead on this project, but I can say that part of these, we did contact references.
Perfect. Thank you.
And if I just may add, please, the concern with the other hauler is most people know them as a junkyard hauler, and I don't want to say anything that that's all they do, but all the clients that they provided as references, they no longer have current hauling contracts. Some of them they had litigation with, and nothing was similar to what we are looking for. So we did do this based on qualifications and services offered, and felt comfortable if, like I said, if there is still a need to go ahead and question our operations at the plant and to determine whether this contract should go forward, I'm happy to oblige.
Anything further, Arden?
Nothing.
Okay. Good discussion, folks. That's really important. Item 11. As president, I have appointed a board member, Amber Duff, to the position of Planning Commission Observer. As the current appointee, Mr. Meyerhoffen has withdrawn from the position. So any comments you wish to make, Dr. Duff?
I serve at the pleasure of the board.
Okay. Moving on to item 12, Mission Springs Water District Regional Water Reclamation Facility Update. We have a presentation by Mr. Ledbetter.
Yes, we do. Steve, take it away from there.
Okay, good afternoon, General Manager Wallen, President Martin, and distinguished members of the board. I have a short presentation for you guys today to provide an update on construction progress at the Regional Water Reclamation Facility. And then I'll have a couple verbal updates regarding the other two construction components, or at least one of the other construction components, the conveyance line that will deliver flows to the regional plant. Bear with me while I share my screen. There we go. Okay, so through the month of January, the contractor continued progress on the influent pump station. The influent pump station is about 20 to 25 feet deep, and that's where the main water will be gravity fed into the plant. This is the lowest or the second lowest point on the plant. And again, all the water coming down or wastewater coming down Little Morongo will gravity flow into this pump station. And this pump station will have 3 pumps, 2 duty pumps, and 1 standby that will pump the water up and out these outlets that you see, these 3 white outlets that are being set within the rebar structure for the wall. From there, the water flows through the headworks area. The headworks area does a couple things. It removes any trash or debris from the wastewater before it gets into the plant. It measures the flow coming into the plant. In addition, this headworks area has what's called a grit removal process, and it removes any of the fine sediments from the wastewater so it doesn't upset the treatment process further down the road. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that they're forming up the rebar and have some blockouts where the water channels will go, those wooden pieces. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see where portions of that have already been poured, and that wood is kind of inset inside of the concrete that will be broken out at a later date to attach to other pieces or other equipment. From there, the water will flow into the SBR tanks. This is a couple concrete trucks backed up to a concrete pumping unit that's pumping over to complete additional wall pours. Here are a couple of photos from the catwalks that have been placed on top of the completed or mostly completed tanks. Each of these rectangular tanks, again, holds about 500,000 gallons of wastewater for treatment. You see some exposed rebar on the top. That will be part of the catwalk or walkway areas that will be on top of the tanks in the future, or that are still yet to be constructed. From there, the water will go into the decant channel, and it can either be delivered down to the spreading ponds for disposal, or it will go through these 2 decant pumps. You can see these corrugated metal pipes extending down into the ground. That allows them to set these very large and tall white pump cans that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. So all that work's been completed, and there will be vertical turbine pumps placed on top of these 2 white shafts that you see on the right-hand side. That water will be used for on-site maintenance. It's recirculated water that's already been treated, and the waste discharge permit allows for that water to be used for maintenance activities such as washing down different treatment tanks, so that we're not using fresh potable water for that. And the other option, again, that I mentioned for effluent disposal is to go down to spreading ponds, and this is a large 24-inch diameter effluent line that will take water down to the spreading ponds down at the south end of the site. That's in the middle of construction. In addition, on the right-hand side of the screen, the DCDA or double check detector assembly was set for the potable water line coming in to feed the plant potable water for the restrooms and whatnot. The next several slides will kind of show progress on the operations building. It's taking shape very quickly, so I thought it best to just walk through a couple of photos to show that. So in January 4th, you can see that the block pony walls or crib walls around the facility were being constructed, as well as the block walls that separate each of the different rooms of the operations building. A couple weeks later, you can see that those block walls are complete and they're actually erecting the steel columns for the building. On January 24th, you can see a majority of the columns have been placed and they're starting to put in the different reinforcements to support those columns. And then on February 1st, you can see that all the columns have been placed, most of the roof trusses have been placed, and they're installing the roof purlins for the operations and maintenance building. And one item that I thought was pretty neat is the smaller picture you see here. That's a little before and after. This was taken on July 29th, and this is all of the electrical conduits that go out to the different areas in the plant to provide service, receive communications from different treatments processes. And you'll see that looks like a big spaghetti of pipe network for conduits. And then the finished product here in our electrical room is you just see basically those stub outs sticking out from the slab. I thought that was pretty neat to see myself. And that's what I have for the presentation today. Regarding the conveyance line project, the construction management team has been working on processing submittals and RFIs for that. Submittals include the PVC and VCP pipe for the gravity main and force main, the Portland cement concrete, the project sign, the stormwater pollution prevention plan, and the traffic control plans. Right now, the notice to proceed is scheduled for next Tuesday, at which point the contractor will begin the exploratory borings on the job, or potholing, if you will, to figure out and finalize the elevation for any pipe crossings throughout the entire 3-mile length of the pipeline. That way we know ahead of time if there are any potential conflicts with existing utilities, and the design engineer has an opportunity to provide a fix for that before it would potentially slow down construction. That's what I had for today. Oh, no, I had one more option or item. The grant. So I last spoke with the grant on February 6th, and the final budget approval is still in review. It's made its way through their different departments, but we were hoping to have that approved by the end of January, but it's still in review. It has cleared, labor compliance review and a couple other departments, but they still haven't given us a firm timeline on when we can expect that, so we can submit for the first reimbursement on construction costs to date. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Okay. All right, Director Griffith.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Director Duff.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any update on the correction of the dates in the contract from the state.
Yes, I spoke with the state regarding that, and they went back and checked internally, and they confirmed that that was a clerical error, that they will be able to update the construction eligibility date to April 1st, 2022 to correspond with when construction started. That way, all costs incurred by the district to date will be covered by the grant. They did request that will need to be done through an amendment process, and they request that we hold off until we get the bids in and recorded for the conveyance line, and the bids in and recorded for the M2 portion, so that they can kind of package it up, since, as I kind of explained with the FBA process, these amendments take several months for approval. But they have at least verbally agreed to make the district whole on that clerical error, that 1 month clerical error. And we're going to be talking with them to get that in writing, just so that we have that in the files to make sure.
Yeah, we did. He was gone last week, like I said, and I did call him today to check. And Steve,
yeah, and I reached out to the state Monday and again today, but I haven't gotten a call back yet. So,
right. I guess then, given that the amendment to that is going to take place, I'm assuming phase 2 time period-ish. Am I understanding that kind of correct?
I would say, yeah, sometime later this year.
So do we and I don't know if this is for you or Arturo or both of you, but do we know how much construction money we will have to wait to be reimbursed on? I'm doubting that they're going to reimburse something that the contract currently states is not covered. So the first few reimbursements that we request could potentially be delayed until that amendment takes place. And I was just wondering if we have an amount that we're talking about for that month of April.
The month of April, off the top of my head, I believe it's about 1.4 million. So that would be the money that we could not get reimbursed on. But the money from May 1st up until now, once we can get a reimbursement request in, would be reimbursed.
And that will be included in the reimbursement request.
Yeah, with that won't be delayed because of the April issue. That April issue can be reconciled after.
Okay, and from my understanding and speaking to a few other districts, we could be looking at upwards of 6 months after the reimbursement request is approved before payments start coming in. So I just want to again assume, I don't want to assume, but I'm hoping to reiterate that we are prepared to submit reimbursements for every single penny we can the minute we have the FBA. Yes.
In fact, we've even asked if we could submit it early. We're ready,
Okay, good.
but they said, we do not have the form. They're not going to let us have the form.
There's 3 forms, and we don't get the 3rd form until they approve the FBA. So we have all the other documentation ready, but we need that last form to fill out and be ready to submit the reimbursement package.
And like I was speaking with the general manager about, even if after you have these verbal communications with the state, you send an email to Arden that memorializes your telephone conversation with the state, just so that at the moment you have that conversation, there's something recorded to CYA, so to speak. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I could pass that on to you. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Duff. We will do that.
Including the names of the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Dr. Griffith? No? Ivan?
No, nothing.
Ms. Meyerhoven?
Yes. When will we be hooking the 2 plants together? The $6.5 million line coming down the street to hook the 2 together. When's that going to happen?
I don't have that timeline, but the contractor for the conveyance line will, in essence, build the manhole directly outside the treatment plant. And he'll continue to build north up to Dillon, and then east over to the Dos Palmas water line, or excuse me, Dos Palmas lift station. All that work will be completed 100% under that contract. We just won't, in essence, turn the valves to push the water from Horton and redivert it back over to the regional plant. And then JF Shea, the contractor for the regional plant, will actually build the line from the influent pump station that I mentioned up to the manhole right outside the entrance of the site. So it's not until the plant is ready for operation that we would actually, in essence, flip the switch or turn the valves to send flows to the regional plant.
But yeah, but it isn't a matter of connecting up. It's what's going to happen is we're going to take a lot of flow off that would normally go to the Horton plant and right away at first, and then later on it'll connect up.
Okay.
Director Meyerhofer, the conveyance line has a 4.5 month roughly construction schedule. So it will be ready to be hooked up to the treatment plant within the next 4.5 months, or by August roughly.
Yeah, it'll be done by about the same time we're done with the plant.
All right. Thank you. Is Arturo with us?
He should be. He's here.
Yeah.
Yes, Arturo. Once again, it's not, you're just the guy who takes the numbers on the information you get, so I'm not putting any blame on you of any kind. We were going to go broke here last month. So we took out a $15 million loan. How much of that 15 million is left?
Just to clarify, we're not going broke. In fact, once again, that is interim.
I thought that was.
I don't want that information out.
We're not going broke. We were going to be out of money.
It's interim financing for the regional plant in the process of collecting the grant.
Well, let me rephrase my question then.
We were never even.
How much of the $15 million have we spent?
Nothing to date.
Nothing today.
Correct.
So why did we need that $15 million loan so soon?
The option was to take it out in as needed or take it out all at once and have it available for the need when the need arises while still earning interest and basically paying for itself.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And
Yes, anything?
President Martin, could we, Danny has informed me that we do need to bring some additional items on the Denali contract. He wants to make a comment on that.
Okay.
Can we go back to item
Sure.
10? Okay, Danny.
Thank you, General Manager Wallen. President Martin, members of the board. My apologies. If I seemed distracted during that discussion item, I had a couple of things happening. I had staff in my ear on my phone, and thankful for them. They were feeding me information that I was asking. Director Meyerhoffen, you asked a question that I had planned to respond to about the 3 years, and we should do 3 instead of 5. And as I was scanning through the contract within the packet, it's missing the terms and early the conditions and early termination.
I mean, they're there, but we just didn't include them in here.
Yeah. What happened was apparently a draft version of this was inserted into the board items folder, and I apologize for that. However, what I was going to say is if we need to terminate this in 3 years because there's better technology, or we want to get into the sludge hauling game, or whatever, fill in the blank, we can easily terminate this contract. The version that will be in the packet for Tuesday's meeting on the last page of the contract will have information about a 30-day termination. Either party can do that written notice without fault, claim, or damages from either party. And that's a standard item in there. So perhaps if that was in there, I'd have felt more confident in saying that. I didn't want to necessarily be able to scroll to that and not have it. So my apologies.
And I didn't want to let the meeting go on any further until we recognized that the information. Okay.
Yeah.
And
I was distracted. I had text messages going out left and right, and
that's generally a standard provision in the district's contracts, so that if things aren't working out, that you can go in a different direction.
I
Always,
apologize.
generally.
And to answer that, yes, it is a standard item in there, and it's listed actually in the undersigned consultant agrees to furnish the following, and under per Exhibit C, early termination and notice, that section is actually missing. So it'll be corrected for Tuesday.
All right,
For the
that's it.
clarification.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further?
Nothing further.
Okay. Moving on to second half of the item 12 is discussion and possible action on Tuesday on the renaming of the new wastewater reclamation facility. So be thinking about various names you would like to call, and we'll discuss that on Tuesday. Moving on to item 13, Critical Services Center and Administrative Building Update.
We're gonna have to do that on
Tuesday?
On Tuesday. We're also going to do the financial report on Tuesday.
Okay. Financial report also on Tuesday.
Tuesday, yes.
All right, so we're moving on to the consent agenda. There are 3 items. The approval of minutes, the register of demands, and board compensation is recommended to authorize board compensation for the following: participation in the tour of the East Valley Water District, date to be determined. I've been to that facility. It's a very nice facility, and it's something we all should be seriously looking at to inspire our facility that we're building. So anyway, those 3 items are on the consent agenda. Review the minutes and the register of demands. If you have any questions, you can address that on Tuesday. Also vote on Tuesday. Director's reports, item 17. This is the opportunity for us to discuss the meetings we've attended and make comments on any of those that we receive compensation for. Is there anybody who would like to go today? No, no.
I'll do it today. I have one that
Sure,
went
go
to.
ahead.
Did everybody get their information in their mailbox
Regarding,
regarding this meeting at the city hall for that's it, Evan. He
yes.
got his, okay.
Yeah.
Amber, you didn't get yours? Director Duff, you didn't get yours? You guys, I'm sorry, Director Griffith, you didn't get yours either? Okay, well, water was mentioned 3 times. There seems to be a concern about people in that meeting wanted to talk about the health of the water, you know, have a good clean water. They wanted water features in the parks. And somehow water and marijuana goes together. I don't know.
it needs water.
Yeah, you gotta water them. So basically, I put the information in everybody's mailbox because I know you're all residents here and you couldn't attend that night. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Ivan?
And I have no meetings.
Okay. Tuesday, and I will also, you gonna do yours today? Oh, Tuesday. No, my God. And I will do mine on Tuesday as well. General Manager's report.
Okay, I don't have anything in addition to what we printed here, looked through it. But Marion would like to make her public outreach presentation today. Bring you up to the present time. Okay.
Thank you, General Manager Wallum, and good afternoon, President Martin and members of the board. I have a short PowerPoint that I would like to share with you and discuss many of the public affairs activities that the district has undertaken in the past month. Additional information is available in the GM update in your packet. First, I'd like to highlight the Career Day at Cabot Yurtsa Elementary School, which took place on February 1st. I joined MSWD Field Operations Technician 2, Alex 9, during the annual event. The students enjoyed learning where their water comes from and about the different careers available at the district. Alex got a chance to show them some of the tools of his trade as seen in that photo. And in response, the children sent us a beautiful handwritten thank you card, which I will read. Dear Alex 9, Marion Champion, thank you so much for coming to our school to be a guest speaker. You made the 2023 Cabot Yurtsa Career Day a huge success. We are so thankful that you took the time out of your busy schedule. Sincerely, Cabot Yurtsa Council. It really was a joy to interact with our students and to share our love of water and its importance with our students. Just 2 days later, we held our wonderful 70th anniversary celebration. Mother Nature smiled down on us and gave us a picture-perfect evening with local business leaders, members of the public, and elected officials gathered, and we got to celebrate Mission Springs Water District. We had more than 20 community partner tables, food trucks and food vendors, a local DJ, a fun photo booth, a mariachi band, and of course our award-winning water. We had a very good turnout with at least 350 community members and several elected officials. A short program featured Congressman Raul Ruiz, Desert Hot Springs Mayor Scott Mattis, MSWD Board President Russ Martin, and MSWD General Manager Arden Wallum. Other elected officials included MSWD board members Ivan Sewell, Amber Duff, and Robert Griffith, DWA board members Jeff Bowman, Gerald McKenna, and Steve Grasha, along with city council members Russell Betts and Jan Pye. The Public Affairs Department could not have done this without the support of our planning committee and the many volunteers and their family members who gave their time and help to support the event. I'd also like to give a special shout out to our local Rotary High School Interact Club, who provided some much needed help manning the tables alongside their MSWD counterparts. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the volunteers and the planning committee members who made the event so successful. But please don't take my word for it. Here's a quick video slideshow from the event.
the best tasting water in the world.
I wonder how DWA took that, the comment, because they were there. I'm just curious.
That was sure
I
nice.
didn't hear anything from them.
That was certainly nice. And I'll tell you, I also want to recognize Director Griffith and Amber Duff for being there and working very, and you too, Russ.
Thank you.
Ivan,
Yes.
you know, you all did so well there. It was much fun getting, seeing you all working at this event, and it was a good event for the community.
Okay.
And I also wanted to mention, again, our live stream blood bank will be here next Wednesday, and we still have several appointments available. So if anyone watching the live stream is interested, they can still register at www.livestream.org/MSWD. Donors, especially those who donate regularly, keep our community's blood supply stable. And although many people donate blood after disasters, blood is needed every day of the year. And bottom line, when we give, others live. So again, we have time slots available next week, and I hope to see many of you there. On the heels of the blood drive next week, we'll be hosting the UCCE Master Gardener, Bert Boss, for a water efficiency workshop at the Desert Hot Springs Library. Bert has more than 30 years of experience living and gardening in the Coachella Valley. He became a master gardener to formalize his knowledge and to have the opportunity to share his experiences with others. His gardening experience is very extensive, going back to when he was a child, and then later when he moved and started working on xeriscape in Colorado. He's going to be sharing his xeriscape approach to gardening, along with tips to make your yard feel lush while still being water efficient. We currently have more than 40 people, attendees, that have already registered for the event, and I anticipate it will be a very informative evening. Also, we are now accepting signups for our first set of 2023 Water 101 classes. Comprised of 4 one-hour classes, the series includes information related to our water and wastewater operations, our water sources, planning and regional partnerships, and finally, district finances, rates, customer service, and our new customer web portal. The new classes start in March and will be held at the DHS library again between 6 and 7 p.m. The specific dates are March 9th, April 6th, May 25th, and June 22nd. This is our third set of Public Water 101 classes since we resurrected the popular offering. I offer all of our board members, I invite all of our board members to attend these sessions. Our customers really enjoy seeing the board members and learning more about Mission Springs Water District. On the outreach front, we're continuing to promote payment assistance programs, and we've ramped up our Protect Your Pipes messaging with new information related to the rollout of the Desert Valley Disposal's new green organic waste cans. We're already promoting these messages on social media, and we will have a new billboard on Palm Drive that will soon remind customers to protect their pipes and avoid tossing food scraps and oils down the drain. And last but certainly not least, I have a new video, one of our water mystery videos, to preview with you today. The video highlights outdoor water waste and encourages customers to fix leaky sprinklers, use a hose nozzle, and implement other outdoor water savings measures. This video will be featured in our social media in March and April, just as the outdoor temperatures start to rise.
There were a few problems that didn't add up, but what was really lurking on the other side of the fence? Today, we find out.
I knew something wasn't right with my neighbor. At first, it was the street. Then, there was something suspicious coming from under the fence. I grew more and more concerned and eventually peeked over the fence. I was shocked at what I saw. Watering during the day, broken sprinkler heads, patches of green grass and weeds around the irrigation pipes, loose hose connections, a garden hose with no nozzle left running. Water waste hurts all of us, and I couldn't stay silent any longer. That's when I called MSWD to the scene.
I had no idea there was a problem with my water use until MSWD helped point it out. I thought letting sprinklers spray on my driveway was good because it stayed clean, but now I know better. I fixed the leaks, and now I'll use a nozzle on the hose to make sure I shut it off when not in use. Those are a few of the ways we now use water wisely.
Solving the water waste mystery by fixing leaks and cutting outdoor waste is always a smart call. Until our next case, visit MSWD.org for more water answers.
And that concludes my update today. Thank you.
The detective in that reminds me of a lot of people I worked with for a number of years. So,
Or was it you?
no, yeah.
Thank you, Marion.
Okay. Any questions or comments concerning Marion's presentation? Amber? Yeah.
First of all, I want to concur with Marion's thanks and I want to congratulate her and everyone else on the committee for the 70th anniversary. It was a huge success in my opinion, and I think you guys did a great job. It was very organized and clean, and it's nice to see. Very good. Thank you guys. The other thing I wanted to thank you for was the ad that you are talking about for keeping our pipes clean. I had mentioned that a couple weeks ago at the last meeting, I believe, and I'm glad to see that we're already getting it out there. Thank you. And then last, we recently had the tour to Palm Springs last weekend. And I was sad that the place down the street where they held the lunch didn't have any Mission Springs water. And I was a little sad that we weren't passing out water, our water, to the bicyclists that went through our town.
That's a good idea.
I'd really love it if you could look into our participation in Tour de Palm Springs, at least through the Desert Hot Springs community next year, if possible. Thank you.
We will do that.
If for no other reason, I wasn't that familiar with the route, so I didn't know it went through Desert Hot Springs. So I hadn't seen anything published about what the route was going to be and et cetera. So yeah, Robert.
I sent an email out. I know that Marion worked really hard on that anniversary event. It was well attended. The community was happy. The kids really loved it. It was a lot of work for the people that were there. I was one of the ones that was there at 12:30 and a lot of employees, and we were on our feet most of the day. I do have to say it got really cold that night. So we kind of experienced the whole wide array of temperatures there. But it was great. The popcorn, they ran out of bags. They had so much. And so we actually used the recyclable or the compostable bags that they were giving out with the little buckets for food waste. We went over and asked them, they gave us some. So then we just started using them. It was a really great thing. And so I want to say congrats to you and also to all the employees that really put a lot of time in to make it such a success. And they were all very, very engaged. And Danny was working quite hard hauling stuff. He carried more than I did. It was just a great day. So thank you very much. Also want to say the PR stuff that gets put out, there seems to be a lot of it, but I don't think people really understand the need for that in terms of some things that other water agencies have experienced with not putting out public relations and not putting out information. So it's really good to push that information because people don't often frequently seek it out themselves. It kind of has to be thrust on them over and over until they finally get it. So thank you for that. So great report.
Thank you. Ivan?
Yeah, I'll just ditto the comments on 70th. Thank you to the staff and everybody that helped that day. And I think a special shout out to Chris at the popcorn station. It was a good 3 or 4 hours straight that he was just scooping. But no, it was a great event. And I think that video, Dr. Ruiz, it's a perfect little soundbite. So I'm happy that we caught that as well. And then to the videos, I like them so much more than Russ and I sitting there and telling people not to put fats down the drain. So I think as you're scrolling social media, something like that's going to hold someone's attention a lot more than
Yes.
my head. So
yeah, I agree.
Great job. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Meyerhoffen. No comments? Okay. I echo the sentiments that were made here. It was really a spectacular event. And it actually turned out better than I thought it was going to turn out. So that's excellent. Moving on to item 19, district council comments.
I would like my portion of the agenda moved to another location so that I'm not after Marion because she's too hard of an act to follow. But I have no report today
Okay,
and no closed session.
okay. Moving on to item 20, director comments. Amber? Okay, Robert?
Not today.
Okay. Ivan?
None today.
Okay, good.
I would just like to say that my resignation from the planning commission was very mishandled wrongly, and I'm very disappointed in what has happened. Thank you.
Only comment I will make is I'm very impressed by the board today and their comments on the agenda and I asked some really, really good questions. So I want to thank the board for their effort in that regard. And with that, meeting is adjourned.